Mandela lived and died in Houghton, once the most affluently white of Johannesburg's segregated suburbs. Most of his neighbours, who turned out to mourn him this morning, are still white, but it's economics now, not apartheid. They were genuinely grieving a black convicted terrorist who turned their world upside down, but left it surprisingly the same. It could have all been so different. When I went to live there in the 1980s, South Africa was trapped between oppression and revolution. The whites were tinkering with apartheid in order to preserve it. The blacks, so oddly obedient for so long, were beginning to lose patience. The young particularly were angry. The lid was about to come off.
It was a terribly violent country. Brutal undercurrents flowed through the cultures of both races. It wasn't just apartheid that brought them to the surface. In Soweto, 25 domestic murders a weekend were routine. Most whites seem to have guns and few inhibitions about using them.
The security forces had few restraints. As the children rioted, they were ambushed.
At least 3 coloured youths were killed outright before they could take cover. The police said they were using birdshot, designed to wound, not kill. But at short range, the ammunition was still deadly. Nearby buildings were peppered with gunshots. More than 20 were wounded, 3 of them seriously. Many others were taken secretly to be treated in private for fear of arrest.
Our cameras recorded it in all its brutal intensity and sent the pictures around the world. They hated us.
You people, let's get out now very quickly, okay? Okay. Because you people are the fucking cause of this now. Yeah, all right. So get out. Okay.
The battlegrounds of apartheid were the townships, where blacks were lucky to be allowed to live, though still as foreigners in their own land. 12 miles up the road, and a world away, was where I lived.
Our white suburbs were dedicated to the pursuit of graciousness. When our blacks were hungry, we didn't tell them to eat cake, we ate it ourselves. This banquet in aid of the starving was held with the country in a state of emergency, the townships in flames, and drought searing the black homelands. But there were more important things to talk about.
And what became clear was the total...
The other world. Millions of blacks shoveled into resettlement camps like Onverwacht.
Water here is scarce and polluted. It's cold in winter. The unbearable heat of summer helped push the death rate of children here to 100 a month. The government here claims with some justification that things are changing in South Africa, that those blacks lucky enough to be allowed to live in cities are becoming better off, that coloureds and Indians will soon have a minor role in government. But all the time, this major exercise in social engineering is going on, uprooting and transplanting millions of blacks, whether they like it or not. It's a more complicated issue than most people realise, but the central truth is that this is apartheid, and this isn't changing.
The white conscript army crushed the township uprising while we reporters were gagged by a state of emergency. There'd been no real organisation. The ANC leaders, in exile and in jail, were on the sidelines. But by now the world had turned its back on white South Africa. Credit of both kinds was running out. The unthinkable had become the inevitable.
Good evening. Nelson Mandela walked away from 27 years in prison today. After 10,000 days in jail, the world's most famous prisoner walks out through the prison gates. He tells a mass rally in Cape Town, sanctions must remain, the armed struggle must go on.
The factors which necessitated the armed struggle still exist today.
He emerged into the world a man almost sanctified by suffering, A politician who'd never had to bother with the messy compromises of politics, the only real possibility for peaceful change. All those hopes and fears invested in a man almost everybody was seeing for the first time. He was fated for his dignity and grace, for what he was, not what he did. It didn't matter he was initially at least a wooden speaker with little taste for administration. Nobody else could carry that burden of expectation. Won't they expect things to change very quickly, and isn't that a burden to you?
Naturally, there is that expectation, and it's an expectation that is justified.
In townships where the shit flowed in the streets and the wagon offered one of the few jobs around, they expected miracles.
The ANC has promised that there will be housing, there will be schooling, there will be education, there will be that and that and that.
Will you give them 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
After the 27th, I would give them 2 months.
Life mostly did get better, but the economy has stalled, half the young people are unemployed, the ANC has grown fat on 20 years of unchallenged rule and worries about the young radical left. But it still seems a miracle. Mandela's dead, but the dream's still alive.